Welcome everyone to Breaking Bread Presents the only strategy you need. Now, if you spent any time on YouTube, you've probably seen videos titled the only strategy you need, or use this strategy to make 10,000 a day, or this is the only strategy you need to fire your boss. Something like that, right? We've all seen it. I've definitely seen it when I first started trading. And I get it, right? Because everybody wants the strategy, but nobody wants the discipline that comes with it. They want the entries, the profits, the results, but they want to skip the patience, the discipline, and the emotional control. Now, the truth is, the strategy don't make you profitable, right? I can give you two traders and teach them the same setup, teach them the exact same setup, the same strategy, and one becomes profitable and the other doesn't, right? Is that the strategy or is that the trader, right? I already proved to you that the setup and the strategy work because I have a profitable trader over here. But why in your hands the strategy and the setup doesn't work, right? It's not the strategy, it's not the setup, it's the discipline and the patience. I can go back to my first strategy that I learned. And I went back after I got into the strategy that makes me successful now. I went back and I looked at all my strategies and they all work. I'm like, oh, this works. This is crazy how I that back then in my eyes it was the strategy, but it was never the strategy. It was me and my growth and my discipline and in my patience, right? Now I do have a strategy that I do call we've been here before that I'm going to show you guys today. And it could possibly turn into the only strategy you need if you show up consistently with discipline, patience, and in control of your emotions. But before we talk about the setup and before we talk about entries and before we talk about the traders behind the setup, let's talk about what I'm actually looking for with inside the setup. So we've been here before. This is a simple strategy that starts with simple observation. The first thing I'm looking for is a range on a 1 hour or 4 hour charts. Again, 1 hour or, not and or, nope, or 4 hour charts, right? And I want to identify areas where a price is creating levels of support or resistance. So it has to establish a area of support and resistance. I want to see price leave that area, right? And then somewhere in the future, I want to see price return back to that area. At some point, I want to see it return back to that area. Once I see that, that starts to pique my interest. That starts to get me interested in what I'm seeing on the charts, right? And it's not because I have a trade, and it's not because I know what's going to happen next, but because I now have information coming in, right? So when price returns, I'm asking one question: what's happening next? And this is where most are going to make a mistake. So most will see price return to the area and immediately look for an entry. But why? What information do you actually have, right? Yeah, price return, but that's it, right? We don't know if price is going to continue going. We don't know if price is going to reverse. We don't know if buyers or sellers are in control, right? The candle is still forming. So if the candle is still forming, that means the story isn't finished yet in that candle, right? And that's where your patience is going to have to kick in because we need that candle to close and then we're going to execute off of that next candle, right? But as long as that candle is open and it's still forming, the story is still being told. We got to be patient enough and let that candle close. Understand patience isn't waiting for price to arrive. Patience begins after price gets here. So what am I waiting for? I'm waiting for confirmation. Now, a sweep is great, but it is not needed. If I see a sweep, that just gives me extra confidence, but it's definitely not needed. So a sweep at the highs or lows, at those levels of support or resistance, if I see that, that gives me extra confidence, right? But I want to see price push inside the range, right? I want to see it push inside the range. So once it comes back to the previous established area of support and resistance, I want to see price push inside that range. Now, after it pushes inside that range, I want to see it close back inside or beyond. And I'm going to show you what that looks like on the charts, right? I want to see it close back inside the range or beyond. right? I want to see that wick. I want to see that wick coming off that level of support and resistance that was previously created, right? I want to see that wick happens, right? Now it gives me more confidence if that candle that we're waiting for closes as a reversal candle. So if we're looking ahead to the upside, I want to find that red candle that now flipped green before it closes. Or if we're headed to the downside, I want to find that red candle at the top that now, I'm sorry, that green candle at the top that now flipped red before it closed, right? So it was pushing up and now we're starting to head to the downside before it closed. So it flipped from a green candle to a red candle. So I want to find that red candle coming off resistance. I want to find that green candle at the bottom coming off levels of support, right? When I see that, that gives me extra confidence. So if I see that with the sweep, oh, let's go, right? But it's not needed. It's just used for extra confidence. So once I get that confirmation, the trade itself becomes simple, right? It truly becomes simple. The real lesson is where traders think they're testing their strategy. They're not testing their strategy because the strategy is simple, right? It's the setup is simple, right? The waiting is the difficult part, right? If price returns but doesn't move beyond the range, then no trade. That's gonna be hard, right? Because it's literally just reading the charts, right? If price moves beyond the range but doesn't close back inside, no trade. If you want a trade but the setup isn't there, still no trade, right? Most traders are looking for a reason to enter. I need you guys to be the disciplined trader that you are, and you're looking for a reason to wait, right? Discipline isn't knowing when to get into a trade, it's understanding when it's not time to get into one. And when we ignore that discipline, we start to get these warning signs that show up. These red flags start talking to us, right? If you're constantly questioning what you're seeing, right? If you're looking for confirmation from other people, if you're trying to convince yourself a trade exists and it doesn't, if you're forcing your bias onto the charts, right? These are all warning signs that we do when we're trying to look to get into a trade or when price is not talking to us, right? And it's not because you're a bad trader, but because you're trying to create certainty where there isn't any. You know, sometimes the market is just not giving you a message. Sometimes it's not calling your number. Sometimes it's not calling your name. So when there isn't a message, there isn't a trade. And you gotta be okay with that. Now, I think that this usually comes from one thing, and that's traders being needy. They have a neediness problem. I was here, so I understand. I always speak from experience, right? The need for action, the need for excitement, the need to be involved. And that need causes them to take trades they shouldn't. So the moment we can stop needing a trade and we can finally wait for that one, and since we trade off the higher time frame, it's probably only going to be one for that day, right? But if we can finally wait for that one, and when we can wait for that one and give our strategy a chance to work, because at the end of the day, everybody wants the strategy, but it's the discipline that gives the strategy value, right? So now let's go look at some charts. Now, as we do this, remember this. Just remember this one thing for me. The goal isn't to convince you that this is the only strategy you'll ever need. The goal is to show you that even a simple strategy like the one I'm about to show you on the charts requires discipline. Because without discipline, no strategy will work. All right, so let's look at some examples of the setup. So I told you guys we want to look at the 4 hour or the 1 hour time frame. I use the 4 hour for swing trading, 1 hour for day trading. This works for futures and options side of trading, right? You just got to make sure those steps are being checked off. If we can't check something off, then we don't have a trade. But what are we looking for? We want to see price establish a level of support and resistance on a 4 hour, 1 hour time frame. We want to see price leave that area. We want to see price return back to that area. We want to see it push beyond that range of the support, beyond that range of resistance, right? Leaving that wick behind. And then we want to see, then we want to wait for that candle to close. And once we get confirmation on those steps, then it's that next candle to where we want to look to take entry, right? On the 4 hour or the 1 hour. No other time frames are needed. None. All right, so let's see if we can find some we've been here moments that align with what we're trying to see. Oh, all right, we got one right here. All right, so now how you mark your levels of support and resistance may vary from mine, right? For me, I mark my support and resistance on the bodies of the area, not the wicks. If you concern yourself with the wicks of the area, then you got to make sure those steps fit within that wick area, right? But for me, I just want the body, right? So my range is going to look like this from the bodies to that wick, right? So, um, level of support created, yep. Check. Price leave that area. Check. Price return back to that area. Check. Price push in that area. Check. Right. It's pushing inside our range. Check. Right. Now, when price closed, we either wanted to close back inside this range or in this example, back above the area. All right. So this one closed like right at it. Right. So check. I'm letting this candle close on this 4 hour candle. It's this next candle here to where I'm going to look to take entry. I'm not dropping down to the 1 minute, the 2 minute, the 3, the 4, the 5. I am putting in an entry on this 4 hour time frame, and I'm gonna place my stop loss below this area here. Right? I'm gonna place my stop loss below this area here. Now, let's just say hypothetically that this candle did not sweep out that candle, right? You see that that low is lower in price than that low. So it swept out these lows. Let's say hypothetically it didn't do that, right? And let's just say this was the longest wick. If this was the longest wick, then your stop loss has to be based off of this wick over here, right? Because this is the trouble area. This is the area too where I know if price returns back to this area below this, then my idea is invalid. But since this wick did take out that wick over there, then we got to place our stop loss somewhere below here, right? And we want to make sure that if price comes back to this area, we know that our idea is invalid. It's invalid if it has to come back below this area. And we're okay with that. We're okay with price saying, nah, we was just playing. Right? And that's fine. It happens, right? No strategy, no setup is 100%. We already accept the L's, right? But I'm telling you, on a higher time frame, it's gonna work out more than it doesn't. But you just gotta show up, discipline, and patient. All right, let's show another. Let's find another example. See if I can find another one. All right, so we got another one here. Right, we got price creating a level of support. All right, creating a level of support. Put a darker line so y'all can see it. Right, we see price leave it. We see price come back to it. We see price push below it, right? It swept those lows, so that's great. Extra confidence. It came back and closed at the top side of our range. Great. That's what it's supposed to do. Let that candle close. This next candle opens. We want to look to get into this trade. We're going to place our stop loss somewhere below this wick, and we're going to play into the opposite side of the range. That's it. Nothing more to it. So when I see this, right, when it shows up, when it appears, then I'm looking to take the opportunity. I want to take advantage of the opportunity, right? And that's all I'm looking for. Let's see if I can find downtrend one. Seems like I'm only getting uptrend ones. Let's see if I can find a downtrend. All right, it's one. Here, one right here. All right. All right, so is that one too? No, that's not one. All right, so looking at this, it's a small one, but it is one. All right, so we see price create a level of resistance up here. All right, price try, price try, price try, price try, right? So we have a level of resistance up here. We see price leave. We see price come back. It pushed inside our range. It closed back outside our range, right? It goes back outside of our range. This is everything that we want to see price do. We're going to let that candle close. We're going to look to take entry on the next candle. We're going to place our stop loss above this area. As long as price does not come back above this area, we are still good to go. You see it tried, right? But it never came back. And this is the part of discipline that and patience that you guys really gotta really wrap your head around, because I understand, because I've experienced this, to where you'll see this strong push and you take yourself out the trade. Not price take you out the trade. You take yourself out the trade. Right? But your idea is still valid. Your idea doesn't become invalid. Your plan doesn't come invalid. Your setup doesn't come invalid until price gets above this area here. So as long as it don't do that, there's no reason for you to get out of this trade. There's no reason for you to cut. Like, don't take yourself out the trade. Sometimes you just got to get up and walk away, and just do that. Just get up and walk away, and let price work for you. Let's see how it play out for you. All right, let's see if I can find another example real quick. Just one more. I want to find one of them red green candles at the top or the bottom. Was that one? Let me see. Oh, that's kind of one, right? So this was an uptrend candle, right? And then it's reverse. Those reverse candles that I talked about, that gives you extra confidence. Definitely a reversal candle, so that gives you extra confidence, right? It didn't sweep the previous candle, but it did give you one confidence booster, so that's good. All right, I see another one right here. All right, so we got this level of support being created. That's my zone. That's the area I'm concerning myself with. Right, so I see price create that level of support. I see price leave. I see price return. Right, you actually got two examples. Because this pushed inside of it and came back out. Let that close. Take entry there. So that's definitely an example of price doing it. Because remember, all it has to do is push inside of it. Right, it don't have to fall out of it, but a push inside of it and come back in. That's cool. Both of these candles here, this one and this one, are those green candles that I told you, those reversal candles that we want to see at the bottom of a range, right? Because this was a red candle before it flipped green. This was a red candle before it flipped green, right? It went down before it closed green. So that means it was a red candle first, right? So extra confidence booster, right? Okay, I got a green candle on the bottom um, of a downtrend that's telling me it's already reversing off a higher time frame. Take entry, play it to the opposite side of the range. But it's this one that I was eyeing. So this candle here, push past, it swept this candle over here, right? It swept this candle over here, and it came back and closed back outside that range, right? Flip that red candle to a now green candle, where we placing our stop loss somewhere below this area. So let's just say hypothetically, this next candle that opened up that you take entry on, it came to stop you out. Let's just say that happens, and that's fine. That can definitely happen. But I always say keep your head up. Keep your head up. Why? Because there's nothing wrong with, once price started to pull back inside this range, to take another entry, right? Place your stop loss under here, because your idea is now valid again. It's now valid again. Where are we going? To the opposite side of this range. But you just gotta um, keep your head in the game when you're looking for this. Now, like I said, this is the 4 hour and 1 hour time frame. So it's gonna take a while for price to return back to an area that was previously established as support and resistance. It's gonna take a minute. But when it sets up and you see it, throw everything else out the rule books. Like, throw not the rule, but throw all them other strategies out. When you see it and it presents itself, take the setup. Be confident in the setup, right? Now, before we go, before I end this, I do want to leave this with you guys. Um, Majority of the strategies you see on YouTube, they work. They definitely work. Majority of them work. The problem isn't usually the strategy, it's the trader, like I told you guys. It's the problem with the trader, right? A strategy can only perform as well as the person that's executing it. So if you show up impatient, you show up emotional, if you show up distracted or undisciplined, You'll find a way to make a good strategy fail. You will find a way to make what I just show you fail, right? But if you show up with patience, discipline, and control, you'll be surprised about how many strategies that will work, right? You'll be surprised how that strategy is going to actually work. But everybody wants the perfect strategy, but very few people are willing to become the traders that requires that strategy to work. All right, so we have come to the end of this call. I thank you guys for breaking bread with me. You guys go put in some back testing time. Go prove to yourself that this works when it's setups, right? We've been here before, so we are returning to an area that we've been at before. Trust it, trust it, trust it, trust it, but make sure it's giving you everything that I said, right? If it's not giving you something that I said, then you don't have a trade. Be disciplined, be patient in knowing that I need everything checked off before I hit this button to the upside or to the downside. But until next time, I thank you guys for breaking bread with me. You guys remain blessed.